Welcome in to Chicago's College Tailgate, the preview podcast, our last preview podcast as we get going here as the season now just a few days away, Shea. You can smell the football in the air.
Oh, my God.
We've got a lot on deck for you today. We're going to go through our college football playoff picks for the year, as well as get you some future plays to make as well. And we've got week 0 just a couple days away, so we will dive into all of that here. So as I started to look through everything that kind of goes into my college football playoff formula, we've never seen a 2-loss team make the playoff. And I think this year we could get multiple. It just feels like one of those years where
hot take.
It feels like one of those years where teams are a little inverse of each other. Some teams have the pedigree and like the rest of the team built around it, but have questions at quarterback. You've got other teams who they have the quarterback, but some of the surrounding pieces maybe aren't as good. I think we could be in for like a real roller coaster type season in college football. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that a lot of these teams have 5th and 6th year guys leading some of these teams. And you also have some teams where you got a freshman or sophomore in at quarterback, even though the rest of the team may be built to win now.
So my question would be, if you're thinking a lot of 2-loss teams are getting in, are you shutting out the Pac-12 or is the Pac-12 involved?
The Pac-12, according to what I have right now, is not involved.
No, so bunch of 2-loss teams in the SEC
when I say a
and
bunch,
the Big Ten.
I say 2. I think we will see 2.
That is a heater of a take.
But
there.
I think it's going to be one of those seasons where you're not going to have a choice because a lot of teams are going to have 2 losses. I don't think we're going to see any undefeateds this year.
What was it when Penn State won the Big Ten and didn't go? Did they have 2 losses, but they had beaten Ohio State? And so Ohio State got in despite not playing.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that it does feel like we're at a point where if that happened again, and granted, Ohio State won the national championship, so it's not like they got it wrong. But I do feel like if that exact situation happened again, the 2-loss conference champion would get in over Ohio State or Michigan sitting on the sideline.
Yes, I agree with you there. All right, so let's get into it. Your 1 through 4. You want to count them down 4 to 1 here, who we've got as our seeds? All right, so let's start. Who is your number 4 team in the seedings when we get the college football playoff in January?
I am not shutting out the Pac-12.
All right.
So I am going USC as the 4th seed. And I know in our Pac-12 preview, I said they could just as easily lose 4 games as they could go undefeated by the way I just view their defense. I do think the undefeated is more likely. In the Pac-12, it's not an especially strong conference, a lot of good quarterbacks, but they're the likeliest team to win it. And if USC is 1 loss or undefeated, I got news for you. The committee is putting them into the playoff. Yes. With Caleb Williams and the brand and a return to glory
Lincoln
narrative.
Riley.
Yeah, that team is going to the college football playoff. I have USC in.
Okay, my number 4, I'm rolling with LSU. I think that you've got Brian Kelly there for another year here. He did a really good job in year 1, and I think the recruiting, he doesn't have to play with the Notre Dame standards anymore. He gets to get his guys in this program now. Jaden Daniels, I'm a big fan of as well. I think that this is, and Jaden Daniels, he's currently the second shortest odds to win the Heisman right now. I think he could be primed for a huge year this year to build off of last year. So I've got the LSU Tigers as my number 4 team.
It was difficult for me to not put Texas A&M 3. It was very hard for me because, look, and more on that in a little bit. I think Texas A&M is a team that can win the SEC. And if they do win, like whoever wins the SEC is going to the playoff. So if that's Texas A&M, they're going to get in. Mm-hmm. But I ultimately went LSU because I think they should be the favorite in the SEC. It's not a bet that I'm particularly invested in at the odds that are available, but I'm going LSU because of everything you just said. You have the quarterback back. You've got Brian Kelly with a full year continuity, no more Notre Dame stuff. It's full go. This is a top 10 team entering. Now, the big matchup is that early one with Florida State. Does one of their seasons end week 1? That's a huge question. But I have LSU as the number 3 team in the playoff. And I feel like this is a year where asking Georgia to win the SEC 3 straight seasons, go to the college football playoff, win in the college football playoff a 3rd consecutive season. And by the way,
win a game for the how many years in a row now?
Yeah, right. And by the way, brand new quarterback, brand new offensive coordinator. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't think the Georgia situation is as cut and dry. They're going to be unbelievable. They should be the favorite, but they're going to have this unbelievable undefeated year, roll through the SEC again with a brand new QB, brand new OC, all this turnover. You lose Bear Alexander from your defensive front. He goes to USC. I'm just not sold that Georgia's a great bet. So I'm going LSU in the SEC and the 3 seed in the playoff.
I've got, you brought up Florida State. They're my number 3 that I have here.
Okay.
And I think you look at the schedule that Florida State plays. If you split with LSU and Clemson, both of which are road games,
yep.
If you split those, then you're gold. You just go 1-1, you'll be golden the rest of the way. I still think there's a world where they're a 2-loss team and can get in as well. I'm a big Jordan Travis fan. And then you just look at what they've got coming back on defense. Jared Verse, I mean, he's going to be a menace off the edge there. And the ACC, you know, this is the year where I think Florida State has the leg up on Clemson. I really think Clemson is going to be one of those teams that's maybe in the 5, 6, maybe even 7 range. They'll be hovering around there, but ultimately I think an ACC championship for Florida State is going to be what puts them over the top.
Yeah, I Florida State too. I think Florida State wins the opening game against LSU. The game's in Florida, I believe.
Yes.
Neutral site, but I believe
Florida,
it's in Florida. I think that they take the opening game against LSU, and I think, honestly, they got a shot to go 12-0. Win an ACC, undefeated, Jordan Travis in his final season. Mike Norvell.
6-year guy.
Right, and Mike Norvell, the head coach, a year ago was where Jimbo Fisher is now. He was the you're going to suck and get fired, and Deion's going to take your gig guy. Well, he didn't suck, and he didn't get fired. He had a way better season than anyone could have anticipated. And now, granted, the expectations rise a little bit, but I think the talent level at Florida State this year is as good as anyone in the ACC, and I believe in Mike Norvell now. I didn't used to, but I now am comfortable. I mean, that's a guy back against the wall. It would have been very easy last year to just get pummeled and take off, go your merry way. Instead, he hangs around, does this unbelievable season nobody anticipated, gets the longer term to stay at Florida State. Forget Deion Sanders' dreams. We're keeping Mike Norvell. I believe in what he's built, and I believe in what they have this season. I think they go undefeated in the ACC and finish the season as the 2 seed in America.
All right, my 2 seed, I've got Georgia. Even with the change to Carson Beck at quarterback, he's still a 4-star kid. I think you look at some of the history with Georgia quarterbacks, like one of the best guys to come through your program didn't make it out a year when you look at it from a recruiting standpoint, and that's Justin Fields. So when you've got talent at the quarterback position, I think you'll have a little bit, not continuity. Now, they did have a big running back injury the other day. But I'm looking at what they're still just going to replenish. That's been the Georgia way. They've
300-pound offensive lineman.
They've lost guys before. It's not like they haven't had to completely retool a defensive line or an offensive line or a receiving room or a running back room before. Yeah. They've done it before. Kirby Smart, fantastic coach. I think he's going to have these guys ready. That's why I've got them number 2.
So you're telling me that Georgia is the new Bama. You're on board. That every year it doesn't matter. Like Bama's the new Georgia, maybe, where they'll have some down years, and Georgia's the new Bama, where just it doesn't matter. The talent level is going to be too high.
Well, I think part of it too is where we're at right now in not just college football, but college sports. Like this is sort of the end of that run now of guys who have been at these schools for a million years. Once we hit that end of the run, and then NIL, I think NIL has been prevalent, but I think you'll really start to see it rear its head in the next 2-3 years. Yeah. In terms of, oh, wow, like those teams have a monopoly on these like 5-star guys because of the fact that they can just pay out the ass for them.
Yeah.
So I think NIL is going to actually turn the tide back to Alabama. But for right now, where we're at, I like Georgia.
One of the best things about Georgia, I don't have them in my top 4, actually, which is maybe a little bold, but I mentioned 3 straight years. It's tough. It hasn't happened.
It was tough to pick 4. Yeah. It was really tough this year.
It hasn't happened since the 30s.
That's why I think there could be multiple 2-loss teams in.
It's an interesting point. No, it's just my thing with Georgia that I love about them and kind of why it's hard not to be in on them is they just openly run a dirty program. They're like, our program is so scummy and so messed up. If you pull the curtain back, you would hit us with level 1 violations from here to the moon. So look at everybody speeding. Go talk about that. Here's
Mhm.
everybody getting speeding tickets, driving 140 miles an hour on a country back road. Let's deal with that issue. Talk about that. We'll take accountability for it. Just don't pull the curtain. I like that they're just openly running things as shady as possible, because you know what? It's more honest than half the schools in this country.
Yeah.
Where would
It's
Michigan
fair.
be if they had decided to just run things openly dirty?
Well, they wouldn't be. Like Harbaugh would not be there.
Yeah.
That they would have. Well, no. When Michigan was having the lean years with Harbaugh, they would have used this as the reason to punt him out of there.
Yeah, they would have. But if they just openly said, "Yeah, we were cheating," sorry, it might be a one-game suspension. You'd get the Johnny Manziel 1/2, and you'd be back on the sideline coaching the second half against East Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
No, Bowling Green, whoever the fuck they open with.
Yeah.
All right, my one is Ohio State.
All right.
I'm willing to hitch my wagon to Kyle McCord. It's another thing where Michigan beating Ohio State 3 times. Ask me when I've seen that in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Never.
I see. Now this is the one I was thinking about putting Ohio State one. Ultimately, I think it's going to come down to who wins the game at the end of the year and ends up becoming the Big Ten champion. Because like I don't think you're going to see sideline watchers like last year get in. And like you brought it up at the beginning of the show, like we're not going to see the team that doesn't participate in a conference championship just kind of fall into the college football.
Notre Dame a few times.
Yeah, sure. I don't think we're going to see that type
or a conference title loser like TCU last season.
True. I'm more apt, like obviously. I've got Georgia and LSU. I think a conference title loser can get in that way. But looking at like the game is at Michigan this year. I think that I don't know who Kyle McCord is yet. When I could totally like 3 weeks in, 4 weeks in say, I might be wrong on this one and take Ohio State because boy, do they've got talent around there. You've got 2 phenomenal receivers on the edges for you. You've got a great defensive line. I mean, this team's going to have what, 4 or 5 first round picks this year?
Yeah.
Like they have the talent, but it's another one of those things where is the quarterback going to hold you back because he doesn't have the experience in a game like this?
When you look at Marvin Harrison Jr. and the talent that he's got, Kyle McCord coming into the game can be a difficult position. Like JJ McCarthy's familiar with it. Mm-hmm. But again, I refuse to believe that Jim Knowles is going to pull his brain out of his skull and go zero blitz for an entire game against Michigan and just let JJ McCarthy throw pitch and catch deep balls. Like I can't imagine it's going to happen again. Ryan Day, let me ask you this. If Ohio State loses to Michigan again, do they kick Ryan Day off the bus? Get the fuck out. 3 straight losses to this school? Like you could be, his overall record, he's lost like 4 games total. You could add another one on, win every other game, not make the playoff, not make a Big Ten title, and you're having fun in whatever second tier bowl that nobody cares about. Everybody's sitting out protecting their NFL stock. Are you just like, you know what? This isn't the standard. Goodbye. I can't live in a world where Ryan Day is going to lose this game 3 consecutive seasons. I'd be stunned.
I think he would get one more crack at it.
I've never seen Michigan beat Ohio State 3 straight times. I've seen them lose 16 out of 18. I haven't seen them win 3 straight.
But the thing about it, like Michigan has been the better team.
Yeah, in both matchups.
Like sometimes like Michigan hasn't been the better team and they win, or Ohio State hasn't been a better team and they win. Michigan has clearly been the better team in both games.
And what's so fascinating about it too, like it's just an odd matchup where Michigan just has their numbers seemingly, because it's like Michigan takes Ohio State's head off. Power run. They're dominating the second half, just clearly gassing an Ohio State defense. But then Michigan goes up against Georgia and gets flattened, like taken off the map.
And it's funny because like the talent disparity is not that far. I mean, especially at the quarterback position, heavy advantage Ohio State.
Well, it's something like Ohio State feels built to beat Georgia, LSU, the big boys from the other conferences. And Michigan feels specifically built to beat Ohio State. So you end up with Michigan getting in and getting clobbered, where they beat Ohio State fair and square. They're the better team, but maybe Ohio State would have fended better in the playoff. Like last year, Ohio State probably should have beaten Georgia. If not for the awful field goal at the end, they would have beaten Georgia. Michigan had their heart stomped on by TCU. And I don't care what anybody says about the Roman Wilson scored bullshit. When you run the annexation of Puerto Rico on the 1 yard line, you're not going to win a game. Like when JJ McCarthy's fumbling on first and an iPhone, you're not winning the game. So like, it's just interesting to me. And it's a totally different conversation, but it's fascinating the way Ohio State seems to fend better against the big boys, but can't get over the hump with Michigan.
Yeah, like looking at Ohio State's schedule here, like Kyle McCord's going to have his work cut out for him once he gets end of September, early, and then like into October, because you've like end of September, you're at Notre Dame, and then you're home against Maryland. Like Maryland's not great, but I think they're like a plucky little Big Ten team, right? We see that team every single year.
More on them in a bit.
At Purdue, that's nothing there, and then home against Penn State and at Wisconsin. So like October is really going to tell me who Kyle McCord is, and honestly, like the month of October is probably going to influence who I would pick in the game at the end of the year.
Yeah, it's interesting for sure. I'm leaning Ohio State, part because I don't want to pick Michigan. Like this is a little bit of Desmond Howard on Sunday Countdown when he just will only pick Michigan. Saturday, whatever game day. I don't want to pick Michigan because I do hate them. But also I don't like JJ McCarthy, like as a player. I saw Joel Klatt's rankings. Boy, you talk about a guy whose checks
Where
are
do you have
clearing.
JJ?
1. I'm glad the checks are still hitting the back of your mailbox. I'm like, holy cow. Ward sign off on that himself. JJ McCarthy ahead of Caleb Williams. I'm like, Joel, come on. You don't have to vomit the paycheck onto the broadcast. What are we doing?
All right. Do you have any dark horse college football playoff picks?
Texas A&M is I think that they're the team that people are going to look at as a little bit like Florida State last year. I talked about this when we talked about the SEC, I think, and that it feels like the Norvell at Florida State where everybody's expecting Jimbo to get fired. I think the talent's way too good. I like Connor Wegman a lot as a quarterback, the sophomore. I think the SEC West is not the beast it usually is. Bama blows to me, like relative to where they would usually be. I like A&M a lot this year.
Mine is Washington because I think Penix could have a 40 touchdown year. You've got good pieces on defense. Now, here's the thing. Here's why I didn't pick them. 3 of their last 4 games are at USC versus Utah at Oregon State. That 3-game stretch is going to determine right there if you're a college football playoff team. If you can go 2-1 in there and also have a win against Oregon banked up earlier in the year, which is a home game for them, then you're talking about a legitimate college football playoff team. Yeah. And they'll be playing like one down the stretch there and probably going to be a Pac-12 champion on top of that with another win against one of those teams. So I think with all of that, and you've got the receiver talent as well, you've got some good pieces on your defensive line too, and a 6th-year quarterback in Michael Penix, who is going to be in the Heisman conversation.
You want a couple bombs, like A&M's 12-1 to make the playoff. I'm looking right now. If you want another just bomb, and this is a bolder claim again, Wisconsin 11-1 doesn't.
I was thinking about that a little bit.
It's a little enticing. You're getting 11-1. You're going to get paid for the opinion. Like I'm looking through the odds.
Now they do have on the crossover schedule this year. They do have Ohio State.
Yeah. So it kind of gets decided in that spot. But again, if you win the West, you go to the Big Ten title game.
Yes.
Maybe you get a makeup shot. Maybe you play Michigan. Maybe you play Penn State.
You're going to have the opportunity to write your resume.
I think Wisconsin has a shot at 11-1. I'm interested. And you just look at the rest of these odds. You get Michigan or Bama at even money. I wouldn't touch it with a fucking 10-foot pole. You're giving me Bama even money with a team that even Nick Saban will tell you is the worst he's had in years. Like Texas 3-1. No, thank you. They should be the favorite in the Big 12. But I don't buy Quinn Ewers is going to be incredibly healthy. And if he's not, that Arch Manning's going to come in and save this thing. At least I don't have to look at Hudson fucking Card again as the backup quarterback, and maybe you can actually beat Alabama this year. But I'm not getting involved at 3-1. Clemson plus 325. I'm not getting involved.
Yeah, the talent's just not there at Clemson. I mean, they still have like a number of all ACC guys, but they don't have like the all-American type guys.
Well, and it's just even from a betting perspective, you're asking me.
And I think Klubnik could be really good. Yeah, like maybe even the player of the year in the ACC. But I just don't know, because like Klubnik can be the player of the year in the ACC, and that doesn't mean Clemson is winning the ACC. If Jordan Travis is the player of the year in the ACC, Florida State is winning the ACC.
Yeah. Like you're giving me, I have to give you my money for basically 5 months, and you're giving me just better than 3-1 on Clemson. I'm out. Like this is where I'm looking for long shots. One that I absolutely wouldn't touch is Notre Dame, sandwiched with like 8 teams that are just better than them. Like who's better, Oregon or Notre Dame?
I'd take Oregon.
Washington or Notre Dame?
Washington.
LSU or Notre Dame?
LSU.
How about Oklahoma or Notre Dame?
I'm splitting hairs. I don't
It's
care
close,
either way.
but maybe Oklahoma, like Utah, Notre Dame.
Utah has I think Utah could have a better resume at the end of the year, but Notre Dame may have the better record.
But that's where Notre Dame is in the odds. They're getting the same odds as Oregon, Washington, and LSU to go to the college football playoff. Yeah. You have a lot of fans that really like your team, and they're putting a lot of money on them to go to the playoff. That's what that is.
Yeah.
That's a book building in their liability. Like the long shots outside of A&M, maybe Wisconsin if you want to get really spicy. I wouldn't touch anything outside of those two.
I'm trying to draw up the case for North Carolina. It's like a super long shot. Like you've got the quarterback there. And the other part too is you look at what UNC, like when they started building the foundation with Mac Brown, a lot of those recruiting classes were built on defense. Now I have to go back and check and see who's still there, but you're talking about like top 15, top 10 recruiting classes that were largely built on defensive players. And those guys are now the ones that are spearheading your defense now. Cause like that's been the problem with UNC. They couldn't stop a nosebleed over the last 2 seasons, but you've had the quarterback in place. And I'm wondering if you can get some overachievers on defense or even just some game breakers, guys that can force some turnovers for you. Could that be a team?
Yeah.
With the value. I'm talking from purely a value standpoint here.
You have to win the ACC.
But you don't play in a division. Let me look at the schedule, but you don't play in the division with Clemson and Florida State.
I think the biggest struggle is you can't lose any games. Like you can't lose to Wake. You have to beat Clemson or
they do play Clemson on the road.
I thought that they played,
but it's
Clemson
at the end of the year too. So like
you
you're building that
Clemson,
team up.
You then have to win an ACC title.
Because listen to this schedule. I mean, this is an absolute cakewalk of a schedule. You open with South Carolina, then you've got App State, Minnesota, Pitt, Syracuse, Miami, Virginia, Georgia Tech, Campbell, Duke, Clemson, NC State. Like,
yeah, there's nothing. An NC State game might be tough late, but
on the road too. And you know that's the game that Pac Pride's getting up for.
I don't hate it. The defense doesn't worry me as much as some of the skill players. Drake May can work a lot of magic, but that offensive line was atrocious at times last season. The skill players aren't anything to write home about. The defense is okay. Like everything's just okay. And then Drake May, if you get some overperformers in places, maybe you can win the ACC and have that sort of TCU type of season. Look, you're going to get paid for it. You want to throw $10 on a huge line? Yeah, I don't hate you for it.
30-1 for North Carolina.
I don't hate you for it.
This isn't to win it. This is just to make the CFP.
I'm not going to call anybody dumb.
And you play in a conference where you play in a division within a conference where you're not going to face the beast of having to go through 2 major teams. So that would be the only other one I would really throw out there, I think, at you. But all right. Let's go through some of these futures. You've got your bag of goodies here of college football futures. You want to just go one by one here?
Yeah, I'll start off.
I'll give you like a rundown of what I've got. I've got 2 to make the CFPs, 1 Heisman play, and 3 win totals.
Okay. Let me see. I've got a couple conference winners.
Okay.
I have a boatload of win totals. I don't have any Heisman stuff. And I got a couple week 0 things.
All right. Why don't you save your week 0 stuff for when we go through the week 0?
Absolutely. Let me give you a win total that I think is drop in the bucket. Guarantee. This is the one. If you're going to put some big number, get reckless, putting money on something, this is the one.
Hold my money for a while. All right.
This is the throw the bank account on it. This is going to fucking hit.
All right.
TCU under 7.5 gets you plus 115.
You lose a lot from that team.
Bang it home.
Mm-hmm.
That team is going to suck. This is like 7.5. I don't know how you magically got to that number. It makes no sense in my head. They lost the quarterback. They lost virtually every important player.
Mm-hmm.
They lost the best wide receiver in America in a draft a year ago. How are you getting to 7.5 wins? And by the way, last year when they had this miracle season, they lost to Kansas State in the title game. They should have lost to Michigan if the Michigan doesn't fumble on first and an iPhone from the goal line. They should have lost to Baylor, fire drill kick.
Mm-hmm.
They should have lost to Kansas. Like, they weren't some juggernaut.
They were the Minnesota Vikings of college football.
They were Auburn with Nick Marshall getting the tip drill touchdown against Georgia and the kick 6 against Bama. And then second half against Florida State, cutscene, your head's on the ground. Like, I'm not interested in TCU at all as being even remotely good. I think this is a team, I told you last week, could lose week 1 as a huge favorite against Colorado, and then your season's totally offset. Under 7.5, bang it. That's coming home.
All right. I've got a win total over for you here. The Duke Blue Devils over 6.5, plus 126. You've got 3 preseason all ACC guys, plus maybe the most slept on quarterback in the conference as well with Riley Leonard. That guy's going to be a pro one day. So you put all that together. I thought Mike Elko did a fantastic job last year. Over 6.5 at plus 126. I'm taking that to the bank.
All right. I like that a lot. I offered this last week, so I'll pay off the tease, or not last week, but earlier this week. Mm-hmm. Alabama under 10. This team, if you watched them last season, you cannot sell me on the idea that they were ever legitimate. You can't. Like, the offense, even when Bryce Young was in, had problems. You bring in Tommy Reese, who I don't care about. You bring in Ty Buckner, who was awful
at Notre Dame.
Awful at Notre Dame. And by all indications is going to be the starter at Alabama. And if he's not, you want me to buy Jalen Milroe coming in as
Did you know this, by the way? Jalen Milroe's grandfather, I think it was grandfather, maybe it was uncle, I can't remember, called into the station last year and gave a little scoop.
I did.
Do you remember that?
I remember that, yes.
He called into the station last year on Waddle and Sylvie to give like a little bit of a hint that it must have been a grandson. My grandson's going to play this week, and then he never saw a snap.
What an incredible story. And now, look, good for you, Grandpa. Your kid's not going to play this year either because he's getting beat by the kid who couldn't throw his 10 yards when he was at Notre Dame. Colorblind, throwing to the wrong team all the time. Like, you putting Tommy Reese at OC and Ty Buckner out there, I'm out. The defense wasn't what it usually is, especially that secondary. One of the worst secondaries that Bama's ever had. Under 10 plus money, you got to play a lot of teams. You got to play LSU. You got to play A&M. You got to play Texas. I could see this easily being a 9-3 team. And if you land on 10, I get my money back.
Right.
And I'm happy. I think
a lot of places too are offering 10.5.
I've heard this is now 10.5 with pretty heavy juice to the under. I wouldn't pay it if I have to pay a lot of money for it. But if I'm getting plus money on 10, I'm in.
You're losing 3 of the top 12 picks in last year's draft too, right? And pivotal pieces, a quarterback, an edge rusher, and a running back. Like, those are, say what you want about the running back. It matters in college football a hell of a lot more than it matters in the pros because it's a 4-year project, 3-year project. So,
and look, I'm not telling you that Saban is no good anymore, but he's not doing as good a job as he once was. He just isn't. And I think a part of why we have him out in the public bitching about the new rules is because he's not doing as good a job as he once was. Everybody has the access now, and Saban can't dominate those pipelines. It looks like it's playing out on the field for Alabama. You don't have a quarterback? What is this, the A.J. McCarron days? You better have a better defense.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think Bama's anything to write home about this year. I could see him 8-4, honestly.
Yep. I'm with you on that under there. All right, Florida State over 9.5 is my next play. Yeah. It's heavy juice on the over, minus 144, but like I've laid out the schedule before with them. You've got 2 challenging games on your schedule, Clemson and LSU, both away from Tallahassee. Split those, and I think you're golden for the CFP, but you can lose both of those and still hit your over 9.5. So over 9.5 feels pretty easy to me.
Yeah, I like that play a lot. I mean, we both think that this is a team that could go to the playoff. I told you I think they can go 12-0. 9.5 is a bit of an inflated line. A lot of people are in on Florida State, but I think we both happen to be those people.
Yeah.
My gritty, ragtag, hometown group of clowns. The Michigan State Spartans.
I've got a hometown pick too.
I am taking the Michigan State Spartans over 5.5 at plus 155. You're giving me $1.50 on the dollar to go over 5.5 wins. Let me take you on a little ride through the schedule.
All right.
Because even if Michigan State blows, I can get you to 6.
All right.
Week 1, Central Michigan.
Loss.
Get the fuck out of here. They lose that game, fire Mel Tucker. They lose that game, Herm Edwards Mel Tucker. In the end zone after the game's over, get the fuck out. You're not welcome here anymore.
You're walking home.
Yeah, goodbye. No, if they lose that game, that's it. We're done. Fire him, pay him off, whatever you got to do. And we're getting, I don't know, fucking Dion is coming in next year. Central Michigan, I'll call it a win. Richmond, you didn't know they had a football team.
Didn't they have a big win a couple of years ago?
In football?
No, I'm thinking of Old Dominion.
Oh, our Owls.
Yeah.
No, Richmond. Come on. Michigan going to East Lansing, win. Washington in East Lansing.
Going to be tough.
Probably a loss. Mm-hmm. I'll call it a loss, but we're at 2.
But that is the West team going east.
Yeah. Maryland at Michigan State. Coin flip? Can I get you to a coin
Maryland
flip?
at Michigan State. I would lean Michigan State there.
Okay. So
I would say it's like a 55-45 game.
We'll put you at 3. Michigan State on the road in Iowa City.
Michigan State on the road in Iowa City.
Cade McNamara flashbacks. Okay.
Loss.
Yeah, probably, but Kirk Ferentz, idiot kid. I could talk myself up to a coin flip with Iowa, who I don't think much of this season. How about at Rutgers? Win.
Yes.
That's not even a conference game. You're going to lose. So we're at 4. You're going to lose to Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
At Minnesota. Coin flip?
I would lean loss.
I would too, but can I talk you to a coin flip?
No.
Even if I can't, I bet I can still get you to 6. Nebraska in East Lansing.
That's a win, probably.
Yeah, first year Matt Rule dealing with the fallout of whatever the hell Scott Frost was.
Yeah.
I feel like I can get a win. You go to Ohio State, you're dead. You're going to get murdered. Penultimate game of the season. We're at 5.
Okay.
Indiana.
Win.
Bang it. We're going over. Even if you think
5.5.
Yeah. Even if you think this team blows, I can get you to 6. And that's not count. Like if you want to split them, Iowa, Maryland, split them. Iowa, Maryland, Minnesota. Can you get me 2 of 3? We're going over.
Okay.
And I
think you've talked me into it.
I can't do 5 and 7 again. The teams, look, I get you lost Peyton Thorne and people want to talk like they lost prime Joe Montana. They didn't. The guy wasn't special. Mm-hmm. He was just a fine quarterback. In fact, he's so fucking not special. He lost the job to Robbie Ashford at Auburn. The guy transferred to go to Auburn and didn't even get a starting gig. You want to act like I lost something? I'm okay.
Those are the funny stories of the transfer portal. Is the guy who, yeah, like you said, transfers and doesn't get anything.
Right. You could have been the starter at State. You go to Auburn. You're backing up a kid who can't play.
Yeah,
not great.
So my hometown pick here, Syracuse, number 6.5, and I'm flushing the under because it's heavy juice, minus 162. But this team sucks. They have the most phantom quarterback of all time that people think is good, but actually can't throw a football. And Garrett Schrader, he runs pretty well, but he can't do anything else. You open the season with Colgate, win. Then you got Western Michigan, probably a win. At Purdue, loss. Home against Army, win. Then you go through the teeth of the schedule. Versus Clemson, at UNC, at Florida State. That's a 3-pack of losses right there. And this team is just not going to, like, they get to November and crumble. They crumble every year in November. Like the first, I think it was 3 years or 2 years of Dino's time at Syracuse, they lost every single November football game. Every single one. Because the injuries add up and there is zero depth on this team. They're a team that starts the worst quarterback.
But you know what's funny about this is I'm with you. I do think they blow and they're going to go under. Mm-hmm. They're also, do they play at Clemson this year?
Versus Clemson, yes.
They're going to like maybe win that game.
No, because
late in the fourth quarter, they're going to be in that game.
They'll be in it, but they'll lose. Like that's become the thing. Like, oh, like Syracuse hangs with Clemson, but they only won the one game, and it was the year that they sucked.
But last year it was the same deal, and they lost.
They've lost to a backup quarterback at Clemson twice now.
But
DJU
they covered.
got pulled. Trevor Lawrence got hurt.
Good teams win, great teams cover. Syracuse covered. I know, I was on the wrong side of that. I'm holding Clemson minus 14.5. Would they win by 13?
No, it was a one-possession game.
Was it that close?
It was a game-winning drive led by Cade Klubnik.
I remember being furious late because DJU kept throwing the ball away.
And then he got benched.
Yeah.
for Klubnik.
What was it? Syracuse got like 4 picks off Clemson and still
they had
lost.
A scoop and score. Yeah. Like they murdered the turnover battle. They're one of the most undisciplined teams ever that I've seen. So, but yeah, this is an easy under for me. All right, what else do you have for us?
I'm gonna go Army.
Oh, all right.
You're getting a crazy number here. Under 6 minus 105.
Okay.
Here's the deal with Army. This is the first year in, I believe, their history that they are not going to run the triple option. Mm-hmm. New coach, new offense. We're doing things differently. Triple option is dead for the Black Knights at West Point. That's going to take a little time. You don't just, at service academies, you're not just recruiting kids who can run complex offenses. Part of why these schools run the triple option is because they can only get the cream of the crop smart kids who also want to go to military academies. Mm-hmm. It's like high school. When you don't have great players everywhere, you run the wing tee. I have a hard time believing Army has recruited at a high enough level that they can just come out running a shotgun option offense like Coastal. It might be just a new system.
Okay.
But they're basically going to run the Coastal Carolina shotgun triple option type of offense. Everything's going to come out of the shotgun. I have a hard time believing this is just going to work. And the schedule, it's not easy. Like you want to convince me this Army team's getting to 6 wins. I think you're out of your mind. I'm going Army under 6, and you can get a good price on it. Round even money, minus 105. Depends on where you shop.
All right. They got what, three power conference teams on their schedule this year.
You get like Louisiana Monroe win, Delaware State win, UTSA, you're going to get your ass beat. Syracuse, you're probably going to lose. Boston College, coin flip. Troy.
That's a Boston College win there.
You think?
Yes.
Boy, that team's so bad.
They're bad, but they're definitely better coached.
All right. Troy, you probably win. LSU, you're going to be a 50-point dog. UMass, you might win. Air Force, I think, is really good. More on them in a minute. Holy Cross, Coastal's going to whip you. And Navy, bounce back here. Like, I think you can fairly easily talk yourself into this being a 5-win team. I'm going under 6. You don't have to pay a ton to do it. Minus 105 or even money.
Okay. Do you have any more win totals here?
I have a couple. I'll just blow through them kind of quickly.
All right.
Both Big Ten. Wisconsin over the 8.5.
Like it.
You got to pay a lot. I got minus 190, but there's no world that this team doesn't win 9 games in one of the worst Big Ten Wests you'll ever see. Mm-hmm. And Maryland over 7.
Maryland over 7.
Our Terps. Our Mike Loxley Terrapins. I'm all over this Maryland
this
team
could be
like a potential dark horse in the Big Ten.
This is like the blow up year for them. And it's like blow up year for them is like you finish 3rd in the division, but with a good, like you elevate past a Penn State. It's
a lot of what we've talked about in that you have the 5th-year quarterback, the COVID eligibility, Talia Tagovailoa, pretty good pedigree, highly touted as a recruit. Now, ton of experience, season 5. Mike Loxley's 5th year. He's built something. I think this is the season.
Good recruiting base in that area, too.
Things go sideways. The future might be dark, but I feel like this is a year where everything comes together for them.
Maryland's one of those areas, too. Like having the ability to recruit in the DMV area like they have. Like if you look through some of the recruiting rankings with Maryland, they get some good, talented players, like low-end 5-star, high-end 4-star guys.
Yeah,
year after year.
All right, you got a couple conference titles, or just a championship?
I just have a couple playoffs and then a Heisman for you. I've got LSU to make the CFP plus 340. I think that's probably of the teams that we like. That's the best value you're going to find. On a team plus 340 there. Love it. And then I gave it my dark horse college football playoff pick was Washington at plus 650. I think it's all going to hinge. And when you're playing a plus 650 to make the college football playoff there, like it's all going to hinge on that 3-game stretch that I alluded to earlier.
Yeah.
The at USC versus Utah, at Oregon State.
I have a couple conference titles that I'll give you.
Okay.
Actually, make it a few. We'll start with the bomb, the long shot. I told you Texas A&M to make the playoff. I think you can get about 12-1. You can actually get a slightly better price on them to win the SEC. I'm holding 14-1 Texas A&M, all of the talent in a weakened West. All you have to do is beat LSU, really. Beat LSU, beat Bama. You're going to the title game. And then you just got to beat whoever comes out of the East. And I don't know that it's 100% Georgia. It should be. They'll probably sleepwalk to that game. But then you got to just beat Georgia with an unknown at quarterback coming off of playing nobody because the SEC East is so bad. So I like A&M in the SEC 14-1, huge bomb play. I also have in the Mountain West Conference, the Falcons at Air Force. A lot of questions. This is a roster that a year ago was maybe the best that they'd ever had. Zeke Daniels at quarterback, who they've lost. They have huge expectations. Like Air Force was the favorite to win the Mountain West at a point last season. And I was in on it then. And I got killed. They weren't as good as they were supposed to be. The early loss to Utah State, things went horrible.
You're getting in the weeds here.
But I'm going back to Air Force. I'm going back to the well. Tyler, they lose to Zeke Daniels, the quarterback, but they brought in 3 kids. They're going to do a 3-man rotation at quarterback. They have a guy who can run, they have a guy who can pass, and they have a guy who can do a little bit of both.
If you've got 2 quarterbacks, you've got none. What do you have if you've got 3?
But if one of these 3 kids hits, the roster is still the best in the Mountain West. I like Air Force. Dude, I'm getting the group of 5. I've been deep into it. The American, UTSA, I'm all over. Frank Harris, 3rd season or 5th season, ton of experience. 3rd season as the starter. Been at UTSA forever. The roster has a ton of turnover. Not the favorites because Tulane exists, but I'm all over the Roadrunners, UTSA.
Okay.
And then the last thing I'll give you is Oklahoma to win the Big 12.
All right. I've got so I was looking through some Heisman odds just now, and 2 other names actually just popped at me that I'm going to also play. But I've got Michael Penix Jr. at 16-1. Also, I think it's worth a play, even though I don't believe in it yet. I think he can certainly change my mind, and it's worth the play at 28-1 because those odds can shrink drastically in a month. Kyle McCord at 28-1 to win the Heisman. And then this is a more long shot play here, but I think it's one worth playing, and it ties into your Wisconsin play there. Braylon Allen at 80-1 to win the Heisman. I know it's usually a quarterback award, but if he can get in the room at the end of the year, then you can maybe hedge your way out of it a little bit. But at 80-1, I think the value is at least worth it for a guy who back-to-back 1,200-yard seasons. At 80-1, I think the price is worth it.
I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not getting into the Heisman market because it just feels like it's never the favorite, and you're just throwing darts.
See, the Heisman market and the MVP market is something that I never win, but it is cracked to me, and I am going to play it every single year.
Like to be holding it late. If you're involved, it's a blast.
Last year, I had Anthony Richardson, and it looked good after like a month, to the point where I was getting like positive cash out value if I wanted to cash out of it. But that, like, I could double my money already, but I ended up not doing that, and the rest is history.
Whoops. One last thing I'll give you on win totals that I forgot to give out. I teased this when we talked earlier this week. The Mustangs, the Pony Express, SMU,
the ACC's own,
over 8, -170. You got to pay a lot to do it, but
this is their crusade into the ACC as a 9-win season.
Yeah, there's an interesting nugget that I was looking at with. I've heard a couple people talk about it. If you follow some of their beat, you can see it. Did you know every single kid on the SMU football team gets paid $40,000?
I feel like I did hear that. Yes, I remember that. Have you ever been to SMU's campus, by the way?
I haven't. I want to go badly.
I went 3 or 4 years ago, and that place is made of money. It is just made of money.
Their branding is so good. Mm-hmm. I want to go to a college football game at SMU and see the Pony Express badly.
It was great.
But I would like the $40,000 deal. You're not going to get superstars, but you will keep a lot of your depth. And that's super important when it comes to winning 8 or 9 games. I like SMU to go over the 8.
And you look at the way that the AAC is shaped this year too. I mean, you're losing Cincy, you're losing Houston.
Yep.
You're losing BYU. Like, you're going to be able to make something in the AAC.
It's Tulane, it's SMU, and it's UTSA. And other than that, there's really nobody in that conference.
Yeah. So I think that is a prudent play for you as they make their way into the ACC moving forward. All right. That oh wait, no, we've got week 0.
How much week 0? You got some UMass New Mexico State action for the people.
What do you have on week 0?
Well, I got a number that you can no longer bet on Navy Notre Dame. I wish I could have given this
You're
out
one of those guys.
a little earlier.
Giving out fake lines.
Well, I bet under 50.5.
Okay. What's it at now?
I can't advertise that because it's 49 now.
Okay.
I would still bet the under. And this is where I want to get your take on something that I've been thinking about. Like Hawaii, Vandy, 56. I kind of lean under. UMass, New Mexico State, 45. I definitely lean under. UTEP, Jacksonville State. I'm not going to pretend I know a ton about Jacksonville State.
But you're going to pretend you know about UTEP.
At 54, I know more about UTEP than I do Jacksonville State. At 54, once again, I'm leaning under. Like, tell me if this is big-brained or if this is legitimate.
Okay.
College football is introducing a running clock. Games are going to get a little quicker. And there's a difference between...
You got to try to beat the market here on it.
Getting the play in after a first down when the clock stops and getting the play in after a first down when the clock is running.
A lot of delay of games.
I think there's going to be a lot of teams that have to adjust to it. False start penalties, coaches not getting plays in, confused quarterbacks, might get turnovers, which can sometimes help the over, but more often than not help the under. I think early in the season, and I want your take because I don't know if I'm just big braining it, you might get a little edge on some of the totals betting unders in games between, like Navy Notre Dame's a great one. Navy, triple option, not going to play fast. Notre Dame with Marcus Freeman, they want to run the ball. They aren't going to play super fast. Like when you have teams that'll shorten the game themselves and you add in the running clock, I think you might have a little edge hitting unders early.
I would largely agree with that. I think it's going to be something that you may only get a week or two squeezed out of it. But yeah, I would largely, I think it's I think you're going to see a lot of teams. You're going to see a lot of 1st and 15s because of delay of game penalties and the fact that the clock isn't stopping anymore. And that to me is you're asking college kids to play from behind consistently. Like that could be a problem.
Yeah, so it's not like anything I would go crazy with. I wouldn't go bet every under on the board. But like I said, the most of these, Navy Notre Dame, even at 49, I think you're still going to get a little bit of a shade of value. I would be interested in the under. 54 for UTEP, Jacksonville State. I'm interested. Hawaii, Vandy, 56. I'm interested. San Jose State, USC, 66.5. Might be a hammer under because like USC is going to be up 30 at halftime and power down. Caleb Williams won't play the second half. It'll be a bunch of freshmen and third string guys.
And if they're not up 30, then they ain't hitting 66.5.
Exactly. So like when I see minus 30.5 as the number, do you see a world where USC's winning this game 56-0? And even if they do, like you have to get the points out of San Jose State. Right. Is this really going to be a 56-20 type of game? Or is this going to be like a 56-7 where you still hit under 66.5?
Whenever I make a total bet on one of these early cupcake games like this one is, I always say, how many points do I think I can get? Can I get 10? Can I get 14? Can I get 17 out of the bum team? And I don't know if you can with San Jose State.
Like USC's defense a lot better, man. San Jose State's bad. I'll just say they're bad. And I don't think that they're going to go out and put up. If they get multiple touchdowns, you still need USC to score 52 to even sniff the number.
Yeah.
Like if you get 14, you need USC to get to 53. That's how you hit the over here. I don't think it's happening. I'm going under 66.5.
My yearly tradition.
In fact, I'm going to hit that right now.
Phrasing. My yearly tradition is always bet Hawaii week 1.
Oh,
just because it's fun. The little trip down Rainbow Road at night. Why not?
Yeah, but that's the big cat thing. Never bet against Hawaii when they're on the island. Oh, they're in Nashville.
They're in Nashville this time. But
they're in Nashville.
I know. But it's Vandy. Like, it's Vanderbilt football. What do you want?
I don't know.
Plus 17.5. That's an under game right there.
It's a big number.
55.5 is what I'm seeing here. But I always
I have 56. All right, thanks for the tip. I'm gonna hit the 56 now.
But yeah,
I know a lot of people just hit the Hawaii Vandy over because like 6:30 rolls around and you're just feeling like watching some football and you're hoping for points. Please don't do that. Like, I don't know if either of these teams can get the 30.
Yeah, so that pretty much wraps up all the you gave out the Notre Dame play there. Yeah. I think the other thing too is with the big dogs too, it may be worth throwing on some of the like 20 plus point spreads too, because
got to be careful.
Be careful, yeah. But like lower scoring games, like the under always kind of funnels its way to the dog too.
Well, that's the trick, and they tell you not to tease college football. I don't like to tease college football. I do a lot of NFL teasing.
Yeah,
but if you're going to, you should combine like dog and under tends to correlate. Favorite and over correlates. Right. That's the way you should be teasing games if you're going to do it. But like, are you going to get involved in San Jose State plus 30?
No, I'm not. No.
That's where you got to be careful.
I'm not blowing my wad on week 0, right? Like now, if this Navy Notre Dame number got to 21, you can maybe talk me into it.
I got to tell you, when we get to week 1, I'm so excited. I'm going to bet 100 games. Week 1.
I didn't know I was hosting with Phil Mickelson.
When we get, listen, I turn into Phil. It's Mardi Gras. The cage opens up. Week 1, when you've got premium television like Bowling Green and Liberty, I'm all over it.
Love it.
I'm not actually going to be on that game, but like Michigan minus 36 against the corpse of East Carolina. Yeah, I'll be in.
All right. That is going to do it. We will be with you on September 2nd live on ESPN 1000 from 10 to 11. And we will recap everything week 0 and get you ready for week 1 next week. What are we going to roll these out? Mondays? Well, I guess we got Labor Day next week. So.
Yeah, we'll do a Tuesday after week 1, and then we'll figure it out. I think Monday's going to be the day for the most part.
So we will get you everything you need in the world of college football, recapping games, getting you ready. Remember, there's going to be a podcast on Mondays, and then we'll have the show, obviously, on Saturdays, getting you ready for every single game. So appreciate you all listening. Hit subscribe if you're not already, and we'll talk to you guys next week.